Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we're gonna chapter 12.1, which is gonna cover unit 8 for the AP Stats review.
Chi-square test for goodness of fit, also known as cough.
Okay, so the idea of the chi-square is comparing the observed counts from our sample with the counts that would be expected if HO is true. Remember, we always assume that HO is true when performing significance tests. The more observed counts differ from the expected counts, the more evidence we have against the null hypothesis and for the alternative hypothesis. So the chi-squared test statistic is a measure of how far the observed counts are from the expected counts, which is relative to the expected counts. And this is the equation. This is the equation right here. Okay, so it is the sum over all possible values of a categorical variable. A chi-square distribution is also defined by a density curve that takes only non-negative values and is skewed to the right. A particular chi-square distribution is specified by the degrees of freedom. When we want to compare the distribution of a categorical variable in one population to a claimed distribution, we use a chi-square test for goodness of fit. Goodness of fit. Okay. And to ensure that observations in the sample can be viewed as independent and that the sampling distribution of the test statistic is the required conditions that need to be met is it has to be random, which means the data comes from a random sample and the population of interest, and you have to meet the 10% condition, which is when you sample without replacement, and has to be less than 10% of the population. And then lastly, large counts, which is when all expected values are at least 5. Now we're gonna go over chapter 12.2. Inference for two-way tables.
For homogeneity.
Use the chi-square test for homogeneity to compare the distribution of a single categorical variable for each of several populations or treatments. The null hypothesis is that there is no difference when preparing a chi-square test for homogeneity. We need to check for independence, that the sampling distribution of the test statistic can be modeled by a chi-square test distribution. The conditions are random. It must come from a random sample or the population of interest. 10% is when sampling without replacement is met when n is less than 10% of the population. Large counts that all expected values are at least 5. What? 2, 3. Okay, next we have the chi-square test for independence.
So, we use this test when we are testing the association between two categorical variables. The null hypothesis is that there is no association between the two categorical variables in the population of interest. The required conditions for this test are the same as the others, so random, 10%, and large counts. Large counts. The expected counts in any cell of a two-way table when HO is true equals that the expected count equals the row total minus the column total divided by the table total. And then we can calculate the p-value by finding the area to the right of chi-squared not including the totals. And for the degrees of freedom, it's the number of rows minus 1 times the number -1. The end. Thanks for watching our life.
Before you go, we know you're all super stressed. We're gonna do a little bit of exercise. We're gonna pluck
away your AP stress,
jitters.
your AP statistics jitters.